listen, I think the movie does a lot of telling. It doesn't sell you on it. She's like, no, I think it's that the disease, they didn't do a good job of portraying it and whatever. And then she's like, yeah, it's like A Walk to Remember. And I'm like, what? And she's like, A Walk to Remember. Like, I haven't seen that. It's like, you haven't seen A Walk to Remember? And then we just started arguing. A Walk to Remember. And she's just like, yeah, the Mandy Moore movie. Like, listen, I haven't seen any Mandy Moore movie where she's not a villain. Like if she's a protagonist, I've seen like the first 5 minutes and I've never seen the rest. That's me and Mandy Moore movies. But pretty much we got into what that movie's about, and that's actually like, oh, it legit is like kind of like Pancreas, like the whole setup of it, which is main character in Mandy Moore's character has leukemia. And the roles are switched. So the main guy is the popular one.
Yep.
She's the unpopular one. Did you watch it?
I know the premise, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so like, long story short, him being with her, she ends up dying. Spoiler, sorry.
Yeah. Understandable. Could see that coming.
Yeah. She ends up, they end up spending time together and all that stuff. And then by the end of it, him being with her like kind of changes him because he's like this bad boy, and then by the end it's like he's like a doctor.
He found meaning in life,
yeah, and all of that, and that's kind of that's the movie, and then she dies from her leukemia and all.
Well, I remember the one quote from it: "You have to promise that you won't fall in love with me," and he's like, "Okay, easy," and then he does, of course. Yeah.
But like, and then I was like, okay, do I have to freaking skim through this movie? So I did right before this for research, and then like there was a specific scene like in the middle, like maybe it has the same runtime as Pancreas. So now we can't even argue too much about the limitations of the runtime. So in the middle of this movie, you can see him falling for her. They're on their first date. They have a successful date. He's clearly now slowly becoming more and more into her. They have that date, and it's like you see the good times unravel. And then I just kind of wikied a little bit of the rest. They have one more date, and then after that, she reveals because also he doesn't know. So it's not even from the beginning. He finds out later after, slowly falling in love with her, and she falls in love with him, that she has leukemia, and then him dealing with it, and and then her progressively getting more and more sick. And so I pointed to that middle of this movie, same runtime. I'm like, I'm already sold on his relationship. Like I'm already I'm not even watching all of it, but I can see why, I could feel why he would be devastated as to losing her, because this is more like his feelings are a little more cemented here. Yeah.
So would you say it's kind of like the similar concept executed better with a few different changes?
Yeah, I think so. I think, it's definitely really sappy, but it's like, it's it's done well because it's believable, I think.
Yeah. I think this is a cool, like, alternative take from Mandy in chat that she says that she had a similar experience at her age, being diagnosed with a TI. I related to her crying out for someone to talk about death who won't always try to change the subject or say sorry. Sorry's always hurt. I think that is actually like a really interesting aspect of this film, where like at the beginning, she wanted someone who didn't just show sympathy. And I was like, they're almost onto something good here. Like if they could just show someone who like had their own issues going on, but like their own solidified personality as to why they weren't going to say like sorry every time there was a sympathetic situation, I think it would have made the dynamic a lot more interesting. Because I was like, you guys almost have something here, but you don't. But I definitely appreciate her sharing that and, giving us that alternative perspective that we don't have.
Yeah, she also had a follow-up. Using her illness to get things sucks, but I did relate to her morbid sense of humor as a coping mechanism. Yeah,
like her just being like, well, got to do it before I die. I did appreciate those kind of like small jokes. Like I was like, yeah, that's kind of like a quirky way of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. And then, so I talked about how I felt about it after the rewatch. What about you?
Well, I have one more quick question for you. I think a lot of times, hugs for Mandy. Love Mandy. I wanted to ask you this because, I feel like a lot of times when we watch like anime films, it's really easy to kind of like forget this demographic and, the kind of audience that it's targeted towards. And I'm not saying that like, because it's targeted towards a certain audience, we could like overlook certain things, but just to keep things in perspective. But, A Walk to Remember, everyone remembers that as like, this, teen drama. No one's kind of saying like A Walk to Remember should be held to the same degree as like The Godfather,
Oh no,
like
no, definitely not.
exactly.
Yeah.
So do you think if we think of something like I Want to Eat Your Pancreas in the same tier as like A Walk to Remember, compare that to something like, okay, if we consider, let's say Spirited Away as the Godfather of anime, just in terms of acclaim, most people like it. It's the only anime film to have won an Oscar.
Is that the Ghibli film you just watched?
No, I saw it a couple of days ago, but no, it's not the same one. But just something that has that same level of recognition and same level of accolades. If we think about those in different tiers, do you think it kind of justifies Pancreas a bit more, or is it still like they're anime films, like you got to deliver on what you're trying to do?
You mean, okay, so you're saying if it wasn't revered as it kind of seems like it is, putting on the same level as Godfather or Spirited Away, being 69 on the Mal top 100. Yeah.
No longer anymore. I think it's at like 74, but it was at 69, which is our magic number to remember.
if it was nowhere in the top 100, I think I'd be like, okay,
yeah,
right, whatever,
Yeah, because I had this with I remember I was watching a Bunny Girl Senpai, and I was like, Bunny Girl Senpai, I could just see watching this on like the CW as like Pretty Little Liars tier, like obviously made for a teenage audience. It's just something you pop on and like maybe you don't think too much of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, in this mindset, I'm like, yeah, I could like see this move. I could see this just being like a fun teenage thing. And like, I'm obviously too old to be watching these things, even though I do enjoy some teen drama, teen action, whatever. Like, if I think about it in this term, in this equivalent, I can understand the appeal more. But then I'm like, yeah, but I'm not comparing like Pretty Little Liars to like The Sopranos. They're trying to be two different things, so like can't fault them for that. But like,
I was watching that last night, by the way.
Oh, nice.
I needed a palate cleanser after.
Yeah. So like
Sopranos, not Pretty Little Liars.
Yeah. But it's kind of like once you kind of like take a step back and see it as more than just like anime film, and you're like, okay, in anime, there's like, so you got like Akira, Ghost in the Shell, those types of like serious sci-fi things that have been like acclaimed for years. And then you have like Pancreas, which is like, it's like A Walk to Remember. I mean, like, I don't think you'd compare A Walk to Remember to like super serious sci-fi films that have like changed the medium. Sorry,
Blade Runner.
Yeah, like we're not going to do that.
Like the funniest thing, I just had this thought. Don't mean to derail, but like a ton of anime directors have like cited Blade Runner as a serious influence for a lot of their works, sci-fi works. So it'd be hilarious if one of them was just like A Walk to Remember.
Yeah, exactly.
That inspired me. And hey, if it did, kudos.
Good on you. Yeah.
Yeah. But that would really surprise me.
Yeah, so that was something that I've just taken like a step back and thinking of like, okay, not saying this to demean everything, because we all like our Walk to Remembers. Like, it's just such a different objective demographic, like so different from like so many other things that we're grouping together.
But this is such like an interesting part of the conversation, like, because it's kind of goes back into what we were talking about last week with like taste and kind of like just like in our minds, we do have this distinction somewhere of, this is like good storytelling and or like this is like top tier, like cream of the crop storytelling, like, masterpiece level. And this is more like, kind of your popcorn sort of, and either can be part of your favorites. You could still enjoy, A Walk to Remember could still be your favorite over The Godfather. Your Godfather might not be in your top 10. That's just, that's fine.
100% fair.
But there is a distinction that we have in our minds of there's this level, the applauded by critics, and there's this other column. I'm making hand gestures, but these are supposed to be columns. Yeah.
Yeah. We're both very hand gesture heavy. My mom is really bad with it, but I've adopted some of it.
Yeah, I've whole life I'm known for my hand gestures, and then
I don't know what to do with my hands. Thank you, Talladega Nights. Another goat for the list.
Yeah.
But I guess.
Yeah, I legit also, full disclosure, I had A Walk to Remember summary open here on my other tab, just in case I needed to pull it up for evidence of how it could have been done.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair, and I think it's also like I wonder how much of the cultural differences play a part in it, but I'm not sure because some things work well.
Yeah, I do want to account for that because it could
Yeah.
also be like that's how realistically in Japanese culture maybe like a dynamic between someone that's more of like a recluse sort of would act. You know, maybe he would act like that, and there's a more extroverted kind of girl that's a little pushy, maybe, you know, and then that would be what the dynamic would be. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.